All right, so now we're recording. We missed all the good stuff about procuring cause, brokerage relationships. How bad Kelly is. So for those of you who are joining us on this recording, I'm sorry, I always forget to record, and see me later about procuring cause and all that good stuff. Okay, moving on. So we've talked about, well, we'll recap for the recording as to what are the reasons. So I'm going to have, nobody needs to see my email. That's just not fun. Let's talk about why do we use a broker buyer agreement? One reason, somebody.
To get paid commission.
To protect your commission, to get paid. Woo, woo. Okay. Second reason.
To get a commitment from the buyer, because buyers are just.
To get a commitment from the buyer. And guys, I hate that terminology. At the builder, we've said that, they've said that for years, because who sees more buyers than a builder's agent? Nobody, right? There's like so many people come through our door. Do you think they want to tell us the truth? No. They think we're the person on the other side of the table that they want to keep all the good stuff from. They want to hide it so that they have the best negotiation. That's what they think. That's why for psychology reasons, we train our new home agents not to sit across the table from the customer. You sit right beside them. It's a mental understanding for them that they realize, oh, this person's on my side. We do that on purpose. I always train them, never sit across the table from them. You'll see a lot of times we do round tables. That's why we do the round table. Because the round table, you're not sitting across from anybody, right? You're always sitting next to. And I would always tell them, as the regional director, make me the bad guy. Because it's always us against them. The reality is that true? No, the new home agent works for the builder. That is a fiduciary relationship. It's an employee relationship, right? Employed by the builder. So it's important, though, that we help our customers understand, especially with the builder's agents, because they're very trained. They're trained to make them their friends, which we should, right? We're trained to make them feel like we're on their side, so they don't feel like they need the other realtor. Why do I need the other realtor? I have, Kelly, she's so sweet. She's got that really pretty accent. But Kelly's working for the builder. So the key here is it's important when we use the broker buyer agreement to explain all of those things when you're having them sign it. Now, 2 things about a broker buyer agreement. Number 1, never email it. If you have to, because you can't see them, do it in a Zoom, do it together. But if you email this thing to have people read it, nobody will ever sign it. It is horribly scary when you read it. Okay? Truly is.
That's
so
why they don't read it. If we send it to them without it, that's the point.
I have seen people read it and not sign it. Oh, I can't. Let me see. I'm going to try to print some, Elsie, for you. I'm going to print a couple of these. Let's print 3 more. Okay, so I'm going to print a couple. Elsie, would you be so sweet to grab that off the printer when it's done? Huh? I know. You're right. Why not? See, in person, so much more fun, guys. On Zoom, I'm like, is anybody there?
I'm zooming.
But now we're all gonna know it's you. So okay. So the really crucial thing about a broker buyer agreement is how you present it and when. Okay, so here is my recommendation to you. When you meet the customer, never at the house, right? Do we ever meet the customer? One for me too. Yeah, it's just you. I printed an extra one. Everybody else has one. Yeah, I'll just snag one if you'd be so kind. I'm going to show how I present it. Thank you. You get the 2 pages? No, it's 2 pages. Okay. I don't know what you took.
You need a.
Here, give me that. What are you doing here? This is why I should have said Kelly. Thank you. Okay, here we go. It's 2 pages. All right, so it's crucial, again, how and when you present this. Oh, Mark, do you have one? You have one now. Okay, there we go. I knew I printed an extra one for someone. Didn't remember, he's only standing right in front of me. Thank you, Miss Tammy. Okay, so my suggestion is when you meet a customer for the first time, that's when you have them sign this. Now, some people do buyer consultations before taking them out. And if you're a newer agent, that's a great idea. It gives you an opportunity to really build relationship, get to know them, understand their wants and needs. You could have them sign it at that time. Absolutely. Or you could wait till the day you meet. It's your call. If it were me, I always make them sign it on the first time. But to be honest, I'm never going to lie. I didn't do a buyer consultation. I did it always on the phone because time is money. So, the reality of the buyer agent position, you are only as good as your discovery. So if you don't get to the right answers and you don't let them know where the whole thing, when people go on the MLS, I say it all the time for a listing presentation. Do you think people go online to select your home? No, they go online to eliminate it. They want to swipe left, right? They're trying to narrow it down themselves. They're not searching. They're trying to narrow it down to figure out what they really, really want. So we want a buyer to understand that. We want to make sure that everything that could be a possibility we're going to consider, but we're going to narrow it down directly to your needs and wants. And those are the few homes we're going to look at. Because what I don't want to do, Jeannie, is I don't want to get all these things. We're going to go see these homes and they really aren't exactly what you want and need. And what happened was the time it took us to go see those homes, the home that you really would have wanted is now pending with somebody else. Right? That I would be a terrible agent if I did that. Always, by the way, it's never them. It's always you. If you've ever heard me, I would be a terrible agent. Okay? I would never do that to you. If they say, can I come see one home tomorrow? What is the answer?
No.
Yes, thank you. God's no. But we never just say no, right? Because that makes us seem so mean.
I do.
Unless you're Jeannie, but she's been an agent for 15 years. So she can do that. I always would say the same thing. Hi, Kelly, great. So your husband's going to come too? Oh, no, he's on lunch. He can't take lunch, but I'm just going to go see it, right? And then I'll let him know if I like it.
That works in real life.
That happens in real estate, real life all the time. And then the agents that are new, who are, guys, hungry, go waste your time and waste the customer's time doing this. Do not get in that habit. So here's the thing. There's a couple ways you could answer that one. I threw something else in there. Well, what I would hate, Martha, is if I take you to go see that home and you fall in love with it, but Larry can't come till later that night. And by the time we get him out there, the home is pending. You're going to be so mad at me. So I can't do that. Unless you think we could get Larry on Zoom and you're ready to make that decision while we're in that house. Can you make that buying decision if we can get Larry on Zoom? Right? How many people are going to say yes? Not many, because they just want to go look at homes. But if they do, now that is a reality in certain price points, right? Certain price points, it's like you've got to go see that one home because that's all you have. But a lot of times it's not that case. A lot of times they're in like the regular price point, 4 to 6 or something, right? There's a lot of homes. They want to see one today, one tomorrow. This is my answer. Oh, Mark, I would love to show you that home tomorrow, but unfortunately, I have Mr. and Mrs. Smith coming down from Nebraska with their whole family, and if I don't find them a home tomorrow, they're going to be homeless. Can they live with you? I do that all the time. No one has ever said yes. They go, no, take care of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I said, tell you what, why don't we do this? We'll get a couple more homes too. We'll spend the whole day on Saturday. How's that sound? Perfect.
So what about they haven't signed the agreement with you?
That's fine. That's fine. Now, Saturday, when we have our whole showing list, and I have my beautiful buyer brochure that we have back there, and I did my buyer tour in Cloud CMA. So you guys who are new, Cloud CMA buyer tour, the best tool to bring to a buyer. Me, I keep the ugly MLS, but I don't want to give the MLS to the buyer. First of all, I can barely find, where the heck was that information? I mean, it's like horrible, right? The broker, the Cloud CMA buyer tour, it's beautiful. It has the basic information right up in their face. That's what you give them. So you create a little packet. And on top of the packet is this. You know, Martha, can you do me a huge favor? Just hand me one of those broker buyer agreements. We're going to make this a little fun. Right there. Yeah, that's why I asked you, because you were right next to it. Otherwise, I'd have made Kelly do it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so you've got your broker buyer agreement. You've got your beautiful consummate buyer tour in there. Maybe you put your bio, maybe you put some things about the company, whatever you normally put in there. And then on top is your exclusive broker buyer agreement. And when I go to meet them for the first time, because I did everything else on the phone, and don't get me wrong, I spent a lot of hours with these people, but always on the phone in the time that I had allotted, right? Do I pick up the phone every 2 seconds that they call? No, I text them back. Always respond, but I don't pick up the phone immediately because we're not at their beck and call. If you teach them that you're at the beck and call, guess what? They're going to run your life. Buyers in general will run your life, and it's much worse if you're at their beck and call. So you've got to set boundaries, but in a way that makes it seem as you're just helping other people. Right? So even if I'm not with somebody, I might text them back and say, I'm so sorry, I'm with another family. I will call you. Does this time work? You've got to train them. It's just like training a puppy or a husband, whatever. You've got the guys that are like, did my wife do that?
Another family could be your own family.
No, I'm not saying we should work with the family, but anyway, that's a whole other guy.
No, but you're not lying. You're with another family, and they can read into it that you're working with.
Listen, say it any way you want to. You can always say, I would love, I'm so sorry, I can't talk right now. How is later today? However you want to phrase it. I always am with another family, but that's your call. But the key is you've got to train them. They can't think that they could call you I had an agent who was receiving calls from the buyer at 2 a.m. The worst part was she would take the call and have a conversation at 2 a.m. Now the guy had a lot of money. I don't care. Sometimes they're the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
They've had their butt kissed their whole life.
Yeah.
They their money. They
I would rather fire that buyer than deal with him. You know what? That commission you have to work so much harder for. You could have helped 3 wonderful families that would have been appreciative of you. So again, comes back to that newer agent syndrome. We call it desperation. Don't get too hungry. They can smell that. They can smell fear. I'm telling you, they're like really sharks out there. They can smell fear and they can smell desperation. They cannot feel that ever. You have to be cool, calm, and collected. Never let them see you sweat, right? And always maintain control. But if they think you're shoving control down their throat, what will happen? They're going to fight back. Now, if you have a couple S's, you're fine. A C, they're just going to be annoying and want all the data. But God help you if you got a driver. Because the driver, you got to make them think they're in control, but you really got to be in control. So you have to know your process better than anybody. Does that make sense? Okay, so now you meet the customers the day of the showings. I'm going to meet them if I can't meet them in the office because it's not closest to where we're going. It's for me, Panera first choice, then Starbucks second choice. I find seating at Starbucks very limited, so much prefer Panera. But wherever your go-to place is, you sit down at the table with them and you're very excited. You say, Mark, I am so excited to show you all of the things I have today. But before we get started, let's make sure we're on the same page. That's how you start it. You don't go into anything else. You do it first. And by the way, if they don't sign it, they never get the package. They don't get it. And they don't go see the homes. Because if you show homes when someone didn't sign this, you're basically saying, I like to work for free. Does anyone in here like to work for free? Because I don't consider it real estate charity. And I don't think we should be doing that for free. You want to build some homes for Habitat? You know what I'm talking about. That's good.
I'm tracking. So, Carrie, this is as important as the question, what about your financing? Do you have an approval for it?
Well, thank you. We haven't even covered that, but you are right. That I was put in my buyer's process. Do we ever take someone to show a home if they don't have a pre-approval or proof of funds?
No.
Thank you. Never. Why would we do? Now, if it's a customer you've worked with for 50 times and you know their money and their family and all that, that's a different story. But I'm talking about a new customer you don't know, you do not work with unless they have a proof of funds or a pre-approval. But again, this is where new agents get rocky. Either they don't ask it, that's like the worst. So thank you for bringing that up, Martha. Or worse, they ask it first. Jeannie calls. Hi, go ahead, Jeannie. You're looking for a home.
You've been first time buyer.
Hi, I'm the first time buyer. I would like to buy a home in the Lake Nona area.
Fabulous. Do you have a pre-approval?
What's that?
Right? But why would I say that first? Do you know how many? I love it. What's that? Excellent job, Jeannie. Thank you. But the reality is, guys, you can make someone very angry if you go to finances first. There are a lot of times, especially depending on your personality, you can come across really rough,
Yeah.
and they're not going to work with you. I had an agent. Oh my God, Frankie, she's so funny. She calls me. She says, Carrie, I don't know. Maybe I did something wrong. She's been an agent for years. What happened, Frankie? Someone called up. They wanted to go see a sign. I said, where's your pre-approval? They said they didn't have one. I said, well, I can't work with you. And then they got all mad at me and I hung up. Probably great thing, but could have done it a little differently, right? So here's a terrific one. First, you start the conversation. Well, Jeannie, that's so exciting. Where do you live now?
I'm moving in from New York.
Whereabouts in New York? Third tier, fourth tier, fifth tier questions. Why do I want to know where she's from in New York?
Because if you know how much, the income in that area, what she was paying for rent, then that same amount of money might be kind of what
Yes.
you want to be from a mortgage standpoint.
Definitely. Now we're going to go into more of this because this is part of the buyer consultation that we're doing next week. But we're also going to talk about why are you moving down from New York, Jeannie? What's bringing you down here?
I'm going to retire. I heard the weather is nice and warm.
Okay, so she did say retiring. That is more of a time immediate. But you know what people say a lot of times? Or you'll ask a question to an agent. Mark, why are they moving down here? Oh, the weather. BS. Because it's been cold the last 20 years. What made them decide this year that this is the year they're going to move?
Right.
Oh, no, they're really moving for the weather. Did El Nino hit? Like, I don't know. I mean, unless you're in some area where there was a tsunami or something. Realistically, weather, things like that. Lifestyle. That's all good. That's all ancillary. That's all top level. Something is motivating them today to call you. And it isn't the weather.
I'm divorcing my husband and moving to Florida.
Oh my
And are you getting to keep the house? Right. Now we know we could have a bigger issue because should we even get her into a deed if she's still married, right? Like that's a whole other thing. But that's the point. It's about third and fourth and fifth tier questions. We're going to do more of this next week. So have some fun. We're going to do a lot of role playing. We're going to have some fun. But we need to know the whys more than anything. By the time we're meeting with them, we know their whys. We know what their financed or their approved funds are. Another thing is you have to be careful when you ask them about that pre-approval because you say, well, how much you pre-approved for? Oh, $550. That sounds good, right? And then we leave it. We go on and we look for homes at $550. Do you know what a monthly payment would look like at $550? I don't know. How much are they putting down? 20%? FHA? What are they doing? Right? FHA not at $550, but you following me? So it's important to understand the monthly payment. I much prefer instead of how much is the home, well, where are you comfortable monthly? Somebody could qualify for $800,000, but be comfortable monthly at $2,500, right? So it really doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, they could want to be at more, not qualify. That's another side of that question. But it really comes down to the monthly payments. I had a customer once. She was really annoying, but I had fun with her. And she said, well, it doesn't matter. I said, really? It doesn't matter monthly? Oh, great. You're paying cash? No, I'm going to finance. Fabulous. So if it were $5,000 a month, that would be comfortable? Well, no. It always matters, guys.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you guys could qualify up to, $1 million. Who knows? But the point is, I'd like to look at what you would be comfortable at monthly because there's no sense in bringing you somewhere then you decide later it's not really going to help you where you want to be monthly with everything else you'd like to accomplish.
Plus, even if they are paying cash, they're still going to have to account for their property taxes if there's CDD out there. So they're going to be paying something monthly, whether they're paying once a year or they're saving.
Usually, though, if somebody has that amount of money cash, it's probably not their first home either, right?
Right.
So that's a good thing. So we have different types of conversations depending on what we know their level of experience in purchasing homes is as well. But we've gotten to the actual meeting time where we're like, about to show the homes. We've been through all the qualifications. We've really narrowed them down. I like to show 5 homes. That seems to be my magic number. 5, and then we're done. They buy a house and we're over. Jeannie's a threer. She's like the $1 million listing over there. She stands outside. She lets them go inside. She says, "Tell me what you think." Just kidding. Because that doesn't really happen in real estate. Okay, so but I'm a fiver because I like people to be tired and feel exhausted, like they've seen everything. So, right? If they only saw, I mean, listen, if they find the first one they love it, they want to close on it, fabulous, great. Also, we'll go more about this next week, but I have an order that I like to put homes in. Who shows the best home first?
I think you should always, right? Because then you can, they can't, if the best home is the higher priced home, this is where they are, then they can, oh, well, if you can't do this, then let's look at that, you know.
So I always show the best home last because we're writing a deal that day. So whatever home, and I might think it's the best home, and it's because of my third, fourth, fifth tier questions that I know why it's the best home for them. Not that it's 5 bedrooms, who cares? How are you using that space, right? What's most important to you in a home? What are the top 5 things you must have, the top 5 things you cannot have? Like, you have to know these things. So there's a lot of things you have to go over. But I want to go in there last because I want to make sure that we're writing a deal that day. Because as nice as they are, I'm done with them. Like, if I have to see them 2 days, I just cut my commission in half. If I have to see them 3 days, I'm a third. I don't work for free. Sometimes, guys, I hate to tell you, when we go through how many days how many days you showed them, you're paying to work for these people. Like, I don't even know how you're making any money anymore. So the idea is to really help them find what they want, but you don't have to drive them all over God's creation to do that, right? You do that ahead. You spend 1 day, you wear them the hell out so they're so tired. You sit down and have a glass of wine and you write the contract. No. The wine is after the contract. Okay, anyway. Okay. So this is the beginning of the day. I'm geared up. I'm ready to go. I can't wait to wear them out and get them in a home today. So I sit down with my buyer broker agreement and I say, Mark, I'm so excited to show you all these amazing homes. Wait till you see all these great homes. But before we get started, let's make sure we're on the same page. I'm not a huge scripter, but I'm going to tell you that the words that I use when I do this have been tried and true, done in multiple languages. I've taught this for years and years. I've done it in definitely Spanish, Portuguese. I did it in French. I've done it in a lot of languages, and it always worked. So that's a good thing. So change it, make them fit for you. But
You're meaning business, and you bring respect to you. That's what I see. Like you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so let's look through it together, okay? Now we're going to look through the contract, and then we're going to talk about what we're never going to talk about, okay? So obviously we filled in their names and Premier Sotheby's International Realty, right? The term. So we start today. How long do you make the termination date? I might put that thing out a year. And honestly, by the time they're showing it to you, they never say anything. But if they say out a year, Carrie, I could say, well, I know you're probably going to find a house today, but you might want to come back next year and buy another one or buy one for your kids, right? Get the termination period in there a long time because just in case. Bruno said he does like 2 years sometimes because he gets people from out of the country and it may take him 2 years to buy it. There is no, like in a lease, it can't be more than a year. Well, it doesn't count here. You can go as far as you want. Don't make it 10 years. That would be a little bit too much, but saying, I think a year is probably sufficient, right? Now, this is the area here, property. Seems so simple. This is your conversation starter. This is where you're warming them up. So, Mark, I know we're looking for a single family home. You really prefer a 2-story. You want the master up. I'm putting all that in there, right? Why? Because it's a conversation starter.
Now, are you doing that part right then, or do you already have it pre-filled?
It's already pre-filled.
I was going to say, because you've already got all the
Already pre-filled. And I'm going to just wrote type property single family. But when I'm talking about it, I'm going to say, I know what single family, preferably 2-story. You really want to master up. I'm not actually going to write that on here. Why am I going to narrow myself down to that type of property, right? I'm going to say single family on here. So less is more on the contract, but when you're talking, this is an opportunity for us to just get back in the groove of being in connection with each other, right? And letting them know, I have listened to you. I know what you're looking for, and I'm here for you, right?
I'm going to write type residential, type of property residential instead of.
You can write residential, single family, whatever you want. If it's a townhome or maybe yeah, you can just say residential, I know you're looking for a residential home, could be a townhome, could be we're looking at today. Yeah, not a problem. Again, for this purpose, it's just that we wanted to say something either single family, residential, something like that. In conversation, we want them to know we've listened. That's the point of this. Location, obviously, you might have written multiple areas. You might have said, I know you're open to all over Orlando, but I know your favorite areas are. Or you could write like, no, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Price range. I know, I like to do this. You're approved up to this amount, but you feel comfortable monthly here. I like to write that there personally. Because it shows that A, I'm listening, but also when we get into that home and they're going to say, oh, I don't know, I can go back to, well, remember we talked about monthly, and then I could do a reduced to the ridiculous to make it show that $50 extra a month is nothing. It's not even a pack of gum a day, right? So that's why I like to do that. Then the buyer has been pre-qualified or pre-approved. Is there a difference between pre-qualifying and pre-approved?
Yes.
What is it?
Pre-qualified is nothing.
Yeah. Pre-approved usually means that they've already had their credit pulled in their financials, so they know what that number is. Pre-qualified just means that, okay, they want to buy a house.
Pre-qualified is not what the paper is printed on. Pre-qualified, I tell you that I have $1 million in reserves and I make $5 million a year. Yeah, you could buy that house. Sounds good.
And I
Just
think
send me
some
papers.
places maybe use those terms interchangeably.
But thank you, Tammy.
You really can't assume
Some
anything.
places do use Chase
Yeah.
Mortgage. I was doing a training for Chase, and they had such a fit over the fact that I, really killed the pre-qualification, because they're like, oh, we run their credit, we look at their tax records. Well, good for you, but not anybody else. So that's why if you're the listing agent, obviously, and even if you're the buyer's agent, always have a conversation with their banker or the mortgage broker. We're not the expert, but we need to be involved in that process, because if we know we're at the ceiling of our debt to income ratio, we will look out for things as they come down the pike a little different, like the inspection or the appraisal, right?
$100,000 of upgrades.
Or $100,000 upgrades at the builder, right? So we're going to sit that new agent down and say, do not let them spend, right? Because they will not qualify.
Right.
Which, by the way, they don't care, because every builder contract has a stipulation in there that says if the home does not appraise, the buyer must pay the difference. So yeah, you have to be the one who knows.
And Carrie, in today's market, the mortgage companies, they want to show approved, no pre-approved, but approved. Like they already went through underwriting.
Listen, there are companies that do that, and I love that. So I know Movement Mortgage, that was their big thing, that they would do a whole pre-approval, a whole pre-qual, ready to go, pre-approval rather. They ran their taxes, all they're waiting for is a contract, and it's already been through underwriting. I think that's pretty amazing. Some companies do that, some companies don't. But for our purposes, we want to really understand their financial situation, so we can help put them in a situation that would be positive, not a negative. That's why we want to know. Not because we want to know about how much your commission is going to be, obviously, because we're, and they will understand that if we come from it in the right way. If we're letting them know, we want to make sure they're comfortable. We want to make sure that we find them exactly what they need. But at the end of the day, they can still go out to dinner when they'd like to, or whatever the case may be. All right. Preferred terms and conditions. If they told you something very specific they were looking for, you could put that down there. It really doesn't matter. I've never really used that for much of anything, because a lot of times I'll just talk about it. Oh, you want that the in-law suite, or if we could find a home with the guest house, that could be, or you're looking for something with seller financing, whatever the case may be. Okay, but this is where, so we've turned it and we said, let's just make sure we're on the same page. And we go through all of that, right? You wanted that single family home, and I know you really prefer Lake Nona, but if we found something over here in Dr. Phillips, that would work too, whatever, right? You go through all that. Now we get to broker obligations. Let's read this for fun, and then let's never do it again.
1 second, before you get into that, when you talk about preferred terms and conditions, what specifically is, I guess, the general?
So preferred terms and conditions, again, you don't have to fill anything in there, but let's say they want seller financing, right? Or let's say they really want some where there's no HOA, or, there's maybe it comes with a deeded golf, or, a deeded golf membership, or, you could put any of those things.
Deal breakers or deal killers, deal what they really want, like
I really leave it blank, because I don't want to narrow the contract down.
Okay.
But when I talk to them, I already know, because we've spent a lot of time together, what those things are. Yes. Okay, so let's look at broker obligations. Broker assistance. Broker will.
Ask a question. Sorry.
If you fill in, let's say they tell you they want to buy in Orange County, so you write that down as the location, and then they end up not using you and they purchase something, let's say in Osceola, would that make the agreement like void?
Null and void. It says the buyer is interested in acquiring property as follows. So it doesn't necessarily mean only those areas. So it really doesn't make it null and void, but I like to keep it open just because we don't want them to think I'm only representing you. Like I had a situation where the customer felt like I was Erica Puccini. They would use Erica on Lake Nona, but they would have to use another agent in Windermere. I mean, that's stupid, right? So that's why, I know, they really thought that. They were so dumb. I know, exactly. Like, I don't understand it. But, so that's why, but yeah, I don't think it would actually negate the contract, but great question, Jen. Okay, broker's assist. A broker will use broker's professional knowledge and skill. That's an easy one. Assist in buyer determining buyer's financial capability and financing options. See, it does say that. So if you don't get involved in that conversation, you just didn't even do what you said you would do, right? Discuss property requirements and assist buyer in locating and viewing suitable properties. Yep, we do that. Cooperate with real estate licenses, working with the seller, if any, to effect a transaction. Buyer understands that even if the broker is compensated by a seller or real estate licensee who's working with the seller, such compensation does not compromise broker's duties to buyer. Interesting that it says that, right? Of course, we're being paid by the buyer. I mean, by the seller. But on this contract, there's an area where it says we get paid by the buyer. So other buyers. Buyer understands that broker may work with other prospective buyers who want to acquire the same property as buyer. If the broker submits offers by competing buyers, broker will notify the buyer that a competing, that a competing offer has been made, but will not disclose any of the offer's material conditions. Do we ever do that? Do we say we're going to be representing other buyers on the same property? Like, these are one of the things you don't send them. They look at that and they think, oh, great. So you're going to be working with other people. How do I know you have my best interest at heart? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is why one of the reasons I wouldn't just send it to them. Try to explain that one away. Buyer agrees that broker may make competing buyers aware of the existence of any offer buyer makes. Do you think they like that? Terrible. So long as the broker does not reveal any material terms or conditions that the offer without buyer's written consent. They don't want to know about any of that stuff, right? Do we ever really do those things? Sometimes we have buyers that are multiple buyers that are putting in offers in the same property. Sometimes we do, right? But it's not a common thing. But I certainly wouldn't send this to them and let them read it and start imagining all these ugly things that could then come from that, right?
I would imagine that happens a lot with open houses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, fair housing. Broker adheres to the principles expressed in fair housing and will not participate in any act unlawfully discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, country or national origin, or any other category protected under federal, state, or local law. Fair housing is a big one. And believe it or not, I have seen buyers or sellers that say, I don't want to sell my home to this kind of person. I'm sorry, sir. Due to fair housing, we have to let you know that we are going to work fairly and honestly with all people from all walks of life, depending, not relevant to their race, color, creed, national origin. I mean, you have to know this. Handicap, familiar status is not there, but it should, oh yeah, familiar status. You need to understand that. And if they are against it, you fire that person because you will be in violation of fair housing. Most of the time, if the seller says it, you're allowed to do it unless it violates a rule. Fair housing is a big one. So if a seller is a foreign national and they say, I only want to accept an offer from somebody who waives the FERPTA withholding, can you put that in the MLS? A lot of you newbies are like, what the hell even is that? Don't worry, we'll cover that under another class. The reality is you can. You can, because you're disclosing it under realtor remarks. It's not against a certain type of person that's saying that they're willing to waive a withholding. But you certainly can't say, will not sell to someone who's Spanish. That is a fair housing violation. Okay? So, service providers, broker does not warranty or guarantee products or services by any other third party whom a buyer's request refers or recommends. So this happens all the time. We recommend inspectors, we recommend, all sorts of different workers or what have you. The thing is here, guys, it tells here that we're not liable. In their mind, are we? Yeah. Whoever we give them is an extension of ourselves. And if they do a terrible job, we look bad. So always give them multiple to choose from, and always say, these are the ones my sellers or buyers have really enjoyed working with or found that they were fabulous. Never you. I recommend. Get that out of your vocabulary. You don't recommend. Your customers have recommended these people. Anything you could do to separate yourself from that liability is great. But I'm going to tell you to pick about 4 of these things and have them. So this is how you do this. And Mark, my promise to you is that I am going to be with you the entire way. I'm going to make sure that financially I'm helping you with the mortgage broker. We feel comfortable the whole way. You have all the options available to you, the different types of loans. We're going to make sure that we keep up. What is it? Oh, thank you. We're going to come on in, Beverly. Have a seat. We're going to make sure that we are going to deal honestly and fairly, account for all funds. We're going to make sure that we're on top of every timeline in your contract. So grab a seat and make sure that everything follows smoothly for you, because I know this is a huge transaction. We're going to try to keep all the stress out of it for you the best that we can. And of course, we're always going to follow all fair housing rules and guidelines. So all I ask in return. So that's what you do. You pick 3 or 4 things you're going to say. Never talk about representing other buyers and putting the offers on the same thing. That's a bad thing to talk about, right? But pick 3 or 4 of those things and you say, my promise to you is, and then you flip it over and you say, all I ask in return. Why would I say that? Because now we go into the buyer's obligations. Now, this is where things get a little dicey most of the time. The buyer agrees to cooperate with the broker in accomplishing objectives in this agreement, conducting all negotiations and efforts to locate suitable property only through broker. Oh, what did that say? Only through broker, and referring to broker all inquiries of any kind from real estate licensees, property owners, or any other source. So that says that if another person contacts them, they're supposed to tell you. We're going to talk about that. We're definitely going to talk about that. But we don't want them to read it, because if they read it, it sounds ugly. The way we're going to talk about it, something so smooth, so warm and fuzzy, okay? If a buyer contacts or is contacted by a seller or a real estate licensee who's working with a seller, or views a property unaccompanied by broker, buyer will, at first opportunity, advise seller or real estate licensee that buyer is working with and represented exclusively by a broker. Do you think that happens? Not often, but sometimes it does. But we have to tell them to do it. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, providing broker with accurate personal and financial information requested by the broker. Wouldn't that be great? In connection with ensuring buyer's ability to acquire the property. Buyer authorizes broker to run a credit check. That is the only one I could say. If you want to cross that sucker out, cross it out. We do not need to be running credit checks on people. That takes us into a whole new world. I don't like it at all. I don't recommend it. Not to say you have to cross that out, but if someone ever says, you're going to run a credit check, no, let me cross that out for you. Most things, I can tell you when you can cross out things and when you can't. That's a cross out. You're fine with that one. Being available to meet with broker at reasonable times. Oh, they're going to meet with us so whenever we want to say at reasonable times. I love that. Indemnifying and holding broker harmless from and against all losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any kind, including attorney fees from liability to any person the broker incurs because of acting on the buyer's behalf. So, hold harmless, not our fault. We didn't do anything. Guys, this is in every contract. Does it matter? Can they still sue us? Yes. Okay. Not asking or expecting to restrict the acquisition of the property according to race, color, religion. So we're talking, what is that? Fair housing. So I don't bring up fair housing again. I talk about fair housing in the beginning. I don't talk about it again. Consulting an appropriate professional for legal, tax, environment, engineering, foreign reporting requirements, and other specialized advice. So crucial. Unless you are a CPA, do not give any accounting advice. Don't do it. You're not licensed. If you are an attorney, feel free to write your own addendums. If you are not, let me check. No attorneys in this room, right? Do not do that. We do not hold a license for law, and none of us, I don't know, I look horrible in stripes. I don't want to go to jail, so don't send me there, okay? It is a felony, 3rd degree. So people don't know that all the time. And when you speak for your seller or your buyer without asking them, what are you acting like? Yeah, an attorney. Client privileged information. Even worse, now you're fiduciary and an attorney. That is right there a felony in the 3rd degree. So don't do it. Okay, we don't look good like that. So what I say, as I flip it around, I say, all I ask in return is that you let me do my job. I am here for you. We are going to see all the homes like we talked about that really fit what you are looking for. And we're going to make sure that if there's anything we miss, we're going to check out all that information because we want to make sure every possibility we've looked at and we actually only go to see the ones that really make sense for you because we're not here to waste your time or more importantly, spend time seeing other homes and then the home you really want to get sold. The other thing is, one thing I'm going to say is when you go to the builders and you're going to do that, it's a Sunday, you're out driving around, they have the beautiful models. Take my bunch of my business cards. Tell everybody you're working with me. Or don't give them your information because they're so nice. And you think they're working for you, but they're not. They're working for the builder. And what happens is, if you want your own representation and you sign up first and then I come in after, they're not going to let me represent you. So please don't sign anything. Make sure everybody knows that I am here for you to work with you. Also, if any sellers or anybody calls you or any listing agents, just send them my way. You shouldn't be bothered with any of that. It is my job and I'm going to take care of all of that. Right? Did I just say all the same things?
Yep.
But in a little softer way. Then, this is my favorite part, retainer. I say, you know, some agents actually charge a retainer. This is not pre-filled in. I take a pen, I call it a 0. I don't charge you anything. Unless you're charging a retainer, which, you know, it's another case entirely. But now, this is the section that gets this kickback all the time. Broker's compensation is earned when, during the term of the agreement or any renewal or extension, the buyer or any person acting on behalf of the buyer contacts to acquire real property as specified in the agreement. Buyer, this is bolded, will be responsible for paying broker in the amount specified below plus any applicable taxes, but will be credited with any amount which broker receives from a seller or a real estate licensee who's working with the seller. There are companies, I think it's slimy, but there are companies that'll write 3 in here, and if the other side, the cooperating listing, is offering a 2% or 2.5%, they make the buyer pay the difference. I have to say, bad practice. I think it's slimy. Who do we represent? I don't like it. I'm not gonna tell you can't do it, but don't do it with me. How's that? So, what I like to do, can I borrow that pen, Mark? So, I have written a big fat 0, right, in retainer. Can everybody see? Oh, you can't really see it on there. Then I write across the entire section, paid by seller. Anybody see that?
Under 7? Yeah.
I cross the whole sucker out, and I say, and you don't even have to worry about paying me. I am paid by the seller. You know how they go, this is so great. This is what other people are trying to fight. They want us to have to disclose how much the seller's paying us, which is part of the NAR lawsuit, which is ridiculous because the buyer's not paying it. The seller's in contract with, you know, the listing agent.
I read about it, but they will find out at the with closing.
Well, of course they're gonna find out in the HUD, but it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
It
So
doesn't
what's the
come
big
out of
deal?
their
No.
pocket. Yeah.
So then the protection period that goes into the compensation right here. Buyer will pay broker's compensation if within blank days after termination, buyer contracts to a prior property which was called to the buyer's attention by the broker. I always put something in there. 180 days,
360
longer, 360 days. And I don't cross that out. That's if you go show a home and the sellers are there and they whip up a great conversation with your buyers. Your buyers go MIA. And then after this agreement, you see that they bought directly from the sellers. Guess what? This protection period, they owe us a commission. Now listen, if we do everything like we're supposed to, it's going to be paid for by the seller. If you want to be sneaky, you're going to pay us. Okay? So don't cross that part out. Make sure when you're crossing out, we'll go over in a second. An early termination. Buyer may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to broker, but will remain responsible for paying broker's compensation if from the early termination date to the termination date, plus the protection period, if applicable, if the buyer contacts to acquire property which prior to an early termination was found by buyer or called to buyer's attention by the broker or other person. So, broker may terminate this agreement by written notice to buyer, in which event the buyer will be released from any further obligation. So what this is actually saying is they stopped working with you and they went and worked with Kelly. Okay, Beverly. Nobody even knows her and I'm throwing her in. Here's Beverly. She's already a problem. Beverly, meet everybody.
I know.
Everyone can watch out for Beverly. She's a problem watching you. Okay. So what could happen is, right, just as we discussed, they ghost you and they go right with Beverly. We are protected all the way up to our protection period. So if you write a 0 there, just like on a listing agreement, if you don't give yourself a date there, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Always make sure you have a termination period. Always, always, always. So how do we do it? We flip it around and we say, I'll ask in return. Let me do my job, as nice as the builder's agents are, yada, yada. I'm working for you. If anybody contacts you, send them my way. Don't let yourself be bothered by that. Now, some brokers actually charge a retainer. We charge nothing. And guess what? As a matter of fact, all of our services are paid by the seller. Now, if there's any reason that you are not happy with my services, I am here for you. I am trying to make sure this is a great experience, but I know sometimes things can get stressful. I understand you're purchasing a home, one of your largest investments. Please tell me. Myself, my broker, we're all here for you. We want to make it right, but we can't make it right if we don't know. Sound good? Great. I'm here.
Is there a shorter version of this? Is there a shorter version? There was, right?
No.
On page?
No. There's no shorter version. Scaring me that you're using a shorter one-page version. Now it's Elsie. So I'll watch her. We're watching you, Elsie. No. You have to be careful when you're printing these out. If you look in .loop, let me show you this. That's why I kept it open. Let's go back. If you look into the .loop, you'll see that there are multiple versions of this document. So you have to go down under Florida Interactive Forms. See, highlight that. Then you come up here and you type in broker. Yeah. No, you gotta let your thing kind of go over it. You see, this one is transition to transaction. That's not us. Then you go to the next one. And that says no brokerage relationship. That's not us. Then you say single agent. Are we single agents? No, the very last one is transaction broker.
EBBA-4.
Just look for transaction broker. Exclusive buyer brokerage agreement transaction broker. That's this one. If you're going to use this, which I highly recommend you do, use the right one. If you write single agency, you just changed our agency agreement, not a good thing. We're not going to be really happy with you. And you could get a charge for dual agency if our brokerage. I have 4 offices, 5 if you count Ocala. So even though you don't think Mark, who's in this office, like I don't even know what office everybody's in anymore, is bringing something to Claremont, guess what? I'm still the broker. And they could go so far as everybody's under Premier Properties. So even if it's down in North Carolina or if it's over in Bonita Springs or Naples, we got to be very careful with the dual agency thing, which is why we never change our status as transaction brokers. Got it? All right. What did you guys think? Very smooth, very easy. Any questions?
But
Mark?
even though with all of this, we still have a hard time with new construction.
Again, we are letting them know that we work for them, that we're in this together and never go anywhere without us or bring our card or don't tell people that they're working with us because otherwise we can't help them, right? So if they go to new construction without you, now you can bring a signed broker buyer agreement and say, oh, great, I'm so excited. They're my customers, so terrific. What do I sign? And 9 out of 10 times we can get added. I have fought with some of the little builders and they're and I've only gotten referrals, but something is better than nothing, guys. But the reason is if that broker of that small builder knows, he knows that this says that they're paying us.
Yeah, that happened with Leonard, a few weeks ago. I was having
Oh,
physical
Leonard.
therapy and we did a Zoom, so I was representing my buyers, which was nice of her.
Yeah, which is great, and they should. Tammy.
So, I recommend, I just did it to make sure, but you can go on Dotloop, check that one, make a copy, get the little 3 boxes, make a copy, send it to a personal folder.
Yes.
That's one of yours, and then you don't have to go look for it every time. You just open up your personal.
Excellent.
You'll never get it wrong.
Thank you. But I want to say
Right.
one thing about
Okay.
that. Florida Realtors is constantly updating these forms. I'm the one who maintains that loop, supposedly. So hopefully I am updating the loops, but I will not be updating your personal because I don't see them. So, and I don't always notify everybody when I've updated the loops. So you might have a new, so I would just say check
Okay.
sometimes
For
just to
days
make sure
or
that there's no updates. Mhm. Not as big a deal as a broker buyer agreement. Don't do that with the contracts, the as is and the residential, because those do change. Yes, Mark.
2 questions. For this, do you recommend it for out-of-town buyers / investors?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody.
Even if they're not going to come into the state at all to see the property, just send it. Here
Yep.
it is.
Listen, if they're sending in a contract with you already, then you're fine. But if they're just starting work and they want you to look everywhere, and an out-of-town investor, I love that sound. Oh, show me the foreclosures and the cheapest deals and things that aren't on the market, which means work millions and millions of hours for me, and maybe if it's super cheap, I'll buy something. That's what that says to me. But I would make them sign it. Yeah, heck yeah, because I'm not going to be doing all that work and getting nothing for it. But that's when I do a Zoom with them and I say, hey, this is great. I just want to send this to you. It's just our commitment to you. We're letting you know all the things we're doing for you. If we can go ahead and we'll go through it real quick. If you have any questions, and sign it. I would do the exact same way.
Plus, in my experience, just in general, most investors, they have less skin in the game. So they'll walk on you,
Yeah.
they'll walk out on you faster than a regular residential person would. So they're an investor, so if they can invest only time with you and never have to compensate you, then
They're going to do
that's
that.
an ROI that most of them will deal with.
Mhm.
And ask
That's
for
so
satisfaction.
true. And worse is, I hate to say this, any foreigners that I have, Daniela, I'm sorry. Brazilians are really bad. This is not fair housing at the moment. But there are cultures that are used to, like, for example, in Brazil, right? You don't even have to go work under a broker. Anybody can be their own broker. I mean, it's like a free-for-all down there. Many countries. in
That
South
is discrimination.
What
That
is
is discrimination. That is discrimination. But it's so true.
Except for you, Jules. You and Danielle are the best. But everybody else is a problem for Brazil. But there are
But
cultures.
it is discrimination, but it's true though. It is discrimination, but it's very true. They are not loyal to anybody. You're right.
Thank you. But it's true. So more than anything, people coming down from New York, I had an agent. She was she was so cute. She was so excited. She had this person coming down. Of course, they were going to spend all this money. And I said, great, where are you meeting them? We're going to meet at the office. Fabulous. And you have your broker buyer agreement. Oh, should I do that? Yeah. And guess what? They wouldn't sign it. And when you present it my way, this is what you do if they won't sign it. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused. I thought we were working together. Are you working with someone else? That's what she did. And they said, well, yeah, I actually have like a couple agents I'm seeing homes with. Well, it's so nice to meet you. When you're ready to work with me alone, I'm more than happy to do so. But please, if you're working with somebody else, go right ahead. Cut yourself loose. You've just saved yourself.
Yeah.
If someone will not sign it, that is why. There's a lot of buyers out there that don't want to waste their friends, their family, whoever's the agent's time. So guess what? They'd rather waste your time. Don't let them. Don't let them do that. That's why the broker buyer agreement is critical. So we went a little over, which is not surprising.
Sherry, I think it's important for agents to know that there's probably a return coming up, the broker's disclosure, that the existing agent wanted my buyers to sign, remember? And she didn't want to sign, so he didn't get a commission?
You know, he said that that's coming up. I have not seen it from any other brokerage. So what Elsie's referring to is on a specific deal from, what do they call a bank? I don't remember who it was, but it was a smaller broker owner. His E&O insurance was requiring our customers, the buyers, to sign their disclosures, which truly, I don't think there's any big deal. Our buyer was just kind of being a pain in the neck, honestly, with that one. But the reality is, I've not seen that anywhere else, but he did disclose it in the MLS. He put under realtor remarks that they will not even present an offer without that disclosure being signed. It was the agent's fault. He did not follow his own protocol, and he submitted an offer, had it signed, and didn't have them sign that first. Again, can they put things in the MLS and it becomes a rule? Yes. If the seller is okay with it, it can be put in there. Absolutely. So if the listing agent said, listen, we can't work with you unless you're okay with us requiring the buyer to sign our disclosure. Let's go through the disclosure so you feel comfortable with it. Are you okay with that? Otherwise, I can't represent you. And they say, sure, no problem. We could put it in realtor remarks, and then we don't have to present an offer unless that's signed. That is totally legal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's if you didn't disclose it. That's the difference. All right, any other questions before we're adjourned? Next week, we are doing another in-person. I love this with so many in-person people. Yay! We're doing buyer consultation. We're actually going to be role-playing. We're going to have homework. It's going to be so much fun. This course is geared to have you in 8, really now 10 weeks, doing a lot of business. So basically, by next year, hitting the ground running. So any questions, anything you want, please come to me. Again, this is geared for you, for newer agents, and you definitely seasoned agents are welcome to be here as well. Love to have all of you. But we just want to make sure that all of these things are covered in a way that you really understand. So no question is a stupid question in this class.
One more question.
Yeah.
Ethical question.
Mhm.
Sometimes from open houses, I'll talk to people that are working with someone.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, I'll just keep in contact just in case. Is that, I guess, to go to the ethics?
So you might want to say, is it okay if I contact your agent? Right? Because it wouldn't be okay if you know that they're in an exclusive relationship to contact them. But it would be okay to contact their agent to say, hey, your customer came, they saw the house, they really liked it, right? Nothing wrong with that. So if someone says I'm working with an agent, fantastic, who? Oh, so-and-so, Joni from ABC Realty, she's awesome. I have no idea who Joni is. But I would be happy to let Joni know that you came if you want, and we can certainly, in case you need any more information, I'll send it through Joni. That's following the code of ethics. So good question. Yeah, but if they say, oh yeah, I'm working with a realtor, oh, terrific. So have you signed anything? Yes, great, wonderful. Who are they? I'd be happy to send them information. You can't have that conversation with them if someone just says, oh, I'm working with a realtor. Again, we don't want the realtor to say, oh yeah, they started talking to me. Yeah, I went to go see this open house, but they kept asking me all these questions. That realtor's going to be, well, did you tell me you're working with somebody? Yeah. Is that realtor going to be mad? Yeah. So, and do they have a right to be mad? Yeah, that's what the code of ethics is for. So we got to make sure that we play within the rules if we want our customers to play within the rules too. All right, guys. Wonderful class. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad you were here. I hope you guys got something out of it. And we will see you next week.